We're live, so I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Before we start off, we'll do Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, first thing on the agenda, public comments. So about we'll do the minutes so
Let's
first.
do the approval of the agenda and
Yeah.
approval of the minutes. I didn't put that on there.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and do approval of the agenda first. Anybody had a chance to look at it? Who wants to first make a motion to first? Tanya first.
I'll second that.
Charlie B second. Okay, the next be the minutes.
So we need to take a vote.
Yeah, we have to take a vote on
All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
that. Aye. Jim, you abstaining?
Aye.
Oh,
No,
okay.
this is the minute.
Oh, this is minutes,
Minutes.
sorry. Okay, it'd be the
How can I? say
minutes
when I
you'll have
wasn't
to.
there?
Yeah, the minutes you'll have to.
I'm half asleep here, so.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, Charlie first.
I'll second it.
Tanya second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Jim abstained.
All right.
No
So,
public comment. No. public
Yeah.
comment.
all right. Well, now we're ready for the public comments. Is anybody, I see we all have new guests, so
Bring it on.
got anything you want to bring to the table?
We're here for the company. We're
Well, thank you.
just seeing if we're.
Anyone have any? Cindy? Oh, you raised up, I thought.
You didn't have, I thought you guys had an issue that you wanted to bring to the table. Well, we actually had been discussing this last week. Remember you were talking about bringing up that board and trying to decide what to do with stray feral animals when it
Right.
comes time to.
Okay, and I've approached the commissioners regarding this, and what we're talking about is there are gonna have to be some tough decisions made in the future about feral animals. And I know people don't like the word euthanize, but we're to a point that we're going to have to start doing that. But I don't want one group to catch all the heat. So our suggestion was a committee of 2 members from this board, which would be Tanya and myself, and for the Humane Society, Molly from the shelter, Kim from the health department, the sheriff, the chief of Tell City, the chief of Cannleton, and the marshal of Troy. I think that brings 9 members, so it's an odd number.
Can I give a recommendation? Can you get a vet, one of your local vets?
Well, it would be nice if we can get them involved, but it's so hard trying to get one involved.
You're gonna have to.
What we want to do is come up with some suggestions on when we have to do this, how we're going to do it humanely,
Well,
and who's going to pay for the cost of euthanization and how to dispose of. So these are things, nothing's going to go into effect. We're going to come up with some suggestions, and hopefully by the next meeting, we'll read those out so the public can have some input to it. But I don't think it's fair for one group to catch all the heat, which there's going to be heat. There are going to be people that are going to complain about this, but we go back to the very first that this is a responsibility that people are going to have to take. And I am so glad that we have good-hearted people that are willing to go out and do these things, but are we solving the problem or are we adding to the problem? Because people see, well, these are people that are going to go out and do this for me. So sooner or later we have to. And again, going back to especially the feral cats, if we catch those, we can't take those to the shelter because they've not been vaccinated. They have disease. If we do that, we could wipe out the whole shelter with disease, and we don't want to do that.
I've personally done this, when Troy had the cat.
Yeah.
Anybody that's lived old enough to remember, went down by the ferry, Troy had all the ferry cats, hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, we were trapping them and fixing them with a group, from Spencer County, and we, one of the Spencer County shelter took them and then diseased all their cats,
Oh.
so.
So that's the bottom line. You know, I hate to say it, I've said it over and over, we can't save every animal. We're gonna have to make decisions, and they're gonna be tough decisions, and I don't want one group to catch all the heat. I don't want it to be Molly, I don't want it to be Ann, I don't want it to be this board. Once we have a group decision, then we'll bring it to the public, let them know what, you know, what's been decided.
I would also have to check with Attorney Cross.
Right, with the attorney. But we have an animal problem, but we're not the only county. Every county in the area has it. The shelters are full. What do you do when the shelters are full? And even if they're adopted out, there's a good chance they may come back. So we're not doing it. And that's one of the one of the reasons why we want to do this education program in the schools, teaching the younger ones, because they have more pressure, they put more pressure on their parents than anyone. Because Susie wants a kitten. Like I said, 8-9 weeks later, it's no longer a little kitten, it's something that scratches you, and I don't want nothing to do with it. So what do? We don't take responsibility, and it either goes outside and runs off, or they call somebody else to take it and make it their problem. So that's one of the things we've got to look at.
So we have no laws on the books
No.
regarding animals at all?
Not in those regards.
Not in the present ordinance.
No, we've rewritten the new ordinance, and we're trying to get all the entities, Cannleton, Troy. If you didn't know this, each one of these entities have their own city ordinance,
We have
and we have a county ordinance.
4 ordinances in this county.
Right, and the sheriff's
Seems like we
department
don't go by any of them.
can't enforce the city ordinances and vice versa. So we're trying to get something that's universal, that everybody agrees on.
Are they receptive?
I've spoken to Tell Cities Council, I've spoke to the commissioners, I've sent them out to Cannleton and Troy. I'm waiting on Troy. I know Troy's attorney, which is Chris Goffin, is looking it over, and he wrote the original one. And this one that we rewrote is not much different. There's just a few
Just
things
different
added.
things.
So I would think he would be on board with it.
Yeah, it's actually an updated.
Yeah,
And I will take care of Cannleton through your communication you've already done to
Okay.
make sure we're on the same.
that's fine. And I guess we really ought to introduce Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we forgot about him.
I'm sorry, I'm Jim Carter, and I just, we had a retirement of the past Animal Control Board member in Cannleton, and I put my name in, and Tuesday, I was appointed to the Animal Control Board through Cannleton. I think I got enough experience to be able to do it, so.
A little bit.
I still need a letter from Karen,
Yeah,
a resignation.
I sent her an email and no response. So,
I told her to.
so,
I just need it for my records.
right. And we may just have to write up something and sign off on it that no response to it. But apparently Cannleton did get,
3 meetings, and this was the original.
Yes.
her resignation.
yeah, they got the letter
Yeah.
a week ago.
Yeah, 3 meetings.
If
and
you
it
could
was out
possibly get me a copy of that.
Sure.
without no contact.
So Tanya, does that answer the question regarding this committee?
Yeah, I think so. I think really, I mean, from what I've gathered when we spoke was their issue was what are we doing now though? That's the problem is like we have an issue now.
Okay,
That
and
gravely needs taken care of because we have
Do you want me
went
to?
through extensive, I mean, like, we've got this down to the nub, like, it's taken care of. And if somebody else doesn't step in, like, right now, it's gonna go right back through the roof where it was
So
at.
what we have is,
You need to get up here.
would you come up to be, so you can be on camera too?
Yeah,
And please introduce yourself. We know who you are, but
Charlie knows.
Crazy Kyra.
That's right. I'm Kyra McBurk Christensen. I represent just a group of women that have been working on a property on 237. There were total, because Ann and Molly had found some dogs on the side of the road, I think is right. I don't remember but I think total there were 22, I think altogether. So we are down to 3 runners that we cannot catch. So I am actually,
22 plus 8.
there's 8 puppies still. So I'd actually, Molly and I have been in contact because we can't catch them. I went to Dr. Kennedy and also the Du Bois County vet that we've been working with these dogs on the property. And I said, what can we get them to slow them down? And they said nothing, that they're not at the feral dog stage anymore. They're at the wild dog stage. And once you give a wild dog any kind of sedative, their adrenaline will increase and it probably won't work. So that's where we are.
2 females and a male.
They're 2 females, which I have the 8 pups of the one probably safe with her for a minute, but the other female's pups are 6 months old, so we're not safe with her. If she's not pregnant, it's a miracle. So, I going to be uncommon. You guys, it wasn't policed for a long time, and this can't be on the shelter.
And the police are aware of this situation, but then we don't want it to be on private citizens. You got private citizens trying to help our situation. We don't know what to do.
And we're tapped out. I mean, we've
Everybody
been,
just says they can't do it.
driving up at
3 in the morning.
Yeah, and I actually am a Spencer County resident.
Yeah.
I don't even live here. But, and that's just it. We tried catching them. They laughed at our live trap. They literally laid next to it. So,
And
Yeah.
and with this property, it's not, cops have been there. It's not just a dog issue. There is a whole living situation and an elderly woman that someone needs to step up legally and look into this
That's where the
situation.
sanitarium needs to be called.
That
well,
or the Adult Protection Agency.
Yes.
The problem
Actually-
with that is there's one person for like 12 counties.
yeah, there
And I
is.
think he's stationed, the person used to be out of Washington, Indiana.
They still are.
Okay.
I work for child services.
Okay, so there's
So-
still,
We had a situation behind the bowling alley.
Yeah.
With
And-
that Molly, remember that?
and if,
So that's just,
And that's the
It's-
thing, that's the answers we get. Well,
Yeah.
that's.
I know it sounds like we're passing the buck,
but
but technically it doesn't fall under this board, but I see
No,
your point.
but we don't want to pass the buck on Molly either, because
Right.
Yeah.
had the shelter had to take in all these animals, and even just if you guys would have went and euthanized all these animals, that would have been, you take 22 times what we paid, 280.
I've been out of the picture, but has anybody contacted BOA, Eric Renshaw? He is the Southern Indiana representative for Board of Animal Health. And right now, has been going through what they call this bird flu situation, which is most of his time. But I'll be glad to contact Eric and ask him what that would, I could go under the ICs and look under the ICs for it, because that's what I do. We usually go under the state laws, but I think it's to a point where we should probably contact BOA.
Okay, because, we can't, the owner can at any time say, you're done.
But if the state sees this as a state health problem, then Eric can then come forward and the state has money to take care of this situation.
Well, and it is, because I talked to the neighbor today, and he said, well, do you want to try the live trap by my trash can? Because they tear up my trash every day. They harass my grandchildren when they're here in the summertime. And that's the runners. The other ones were in kennels.
Who is this Eric
Eric Renshaw. Oh,
Renshaw?
yeah, in fact, I can give you his number if you
Did you
want.
say he was with BOA?
Yeah.
He's the southwestern representative for the state of Indiana. So that's who you would call in BOA. But I also have all of the numbers for all the way up to the state level, all the way to the person that's in charge. But Eric would probably be a good person to contact. So I'll give you that information, so.
But that's all, I mean, like I said, all we really have, it's just not fair for us to go in there and then just say, ooh, here are these 3 dogs that we can't get, so let's dump them on Molly in the shelter.
Well, the situation starts all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't, because
Just
she's
that's-
already said she wanted to keep dogs.
Well, and that's the whole situation, the responsibility. They say, but they don't follow through. And you'll be in the same situation again.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with some sort of solution for the problem. We're not going to answer every problem, of course.
Are
But
there
we
not
need to-
fines or, I mean,
There are, but
No one enforces them.
I know, that's the thing, like, how do you go about?
they tried to get something done and
Yeah, we
it
have,
didn't work.
we have a permitting and licensing system we're trying to get in place, and then you got certain public officials that don't want to vote on that because of certain groups don't like it, and it just,
I mean, it all falls back, I mean, the people themselves have to be responsible or it doesn't matter to us.
Right.
If there's
I mean, but like how many-
consequences-
And I really hate to use this same comment that I've used over and over. Unfortunately, we have parents that don't pay child support, so people are not going to worry about a fine about a dog. I'm sorry. Because it all falls back to responsibility. We don't take, a lot of people don't take responsibility. They cause the problem and then they want somebody else to fix it.
Can I tack it on the recycle bill, because everybody pays that?
Well,
hey,
I mean, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no,
no, well, hey, that,
Everybody does pay.
Right now, we don't have a recycle.
yeah, we don't have a recycled bill this month.
And
In
by the way,
future.
when they were talking about licensing, that state law that prohibits licensing is only for dogs. The state, there is no state law to prohibit licensing for cats in any county unless certain counties put it, but you can immediately license cats. That's,
I don't see why we can't just call it animals and license everybody. I mean,
Well, and then I go back to, okay, who's going to be in charge of this? How are they going to collect it? How are they going to enforce it? And people say, I'm not telling you how many animals I have.
well, I told you, I get off a week every month, I'll volunteer for it.
I know, but what kind of legal authority will you have?
Whatever
You know,
want.
and that's where I always throw up this red flag when you go on other people's property. And,
You see a lot of them just driving by though, really.
Well, and that's where we got
Yeah,
with this
but-
property. The guy said at one point, our plan was to fix the dogs
Mhm.
and then try to get fosters. And then he says, no, if it's property, it doesn't come back. And so that made a big decision for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well, if we didn't have anywhere for them to go, then we knew what that answer was. And that's what we had to do. So, you know, I don't know, really, that's where we are with this.
But I mean, like us doing that, I mean, we're taking on the legal part of putting down people's animals.
Yeah.
We don't-
Right, and you don't,
Yeah,
and
without a
that's why we
surrender.
have to have this group to come up with the decision.
No, I think it's a great idea.
And then again, the thing falls back, you do it for these people, other people are gonna hear about it and they're gonna expect somebody's gonna
Yeah.
come and do theirs and they
Yeah.
lose their responsibility again.
Our inboxes are full,
Mhm.
everybody in here's inboxes are full of, you know, I got this cat, I got this dog, you know, but, you know, and I got involved because I wanted to support Molly and Ann, that's where I came from, you know, and I hope more people see this and understand that the shelter is awesome, they're phenomenal, but
But not
they're,
for that situation.
not
No,
for that situation, no.
And
It's,
if I may, this was something I was going to read later, but this is in their contract. It says they're not responsible for enforcement or regulation or animal licensing required within Perry County. Employees or agents of River Edge Animal Shelter shall not be considered animal control officers.
Yep.
And that's what they
That's all they
basically
do.
turned them into.
Yes.
yes. and it's
Because
not fair.
once the dispatch contacts them, some departments call that there's a dog running loose, and they go out, they've actually become animal control. And my question I was bringing up later is, since they are being dispatched, if something happens to one of them, who's responsible? That is an issue that's got to be explained and defined.
Well, and they're both huge-hearted people.
I know.
I'm sorry, Ann,
That's
I'm
one
throwing you under
thing.
the bus that you have
But-
a huge heart.
But that's one
They're going
thing.
to do it because one,
Yes.
who,
Right.
there's nobody else to do it.
But it also falls back, first responders that get called out by that, by dispatch, if they're injured, they're
county,
covered.
yeah.
But these two ladies are not, or anybody that works for them are not,
Their contract.
because they're contracted, so.
No, I'm glad you guys are support, I mean,
Well,
you
then
know,
what
that's,
about if law enforcement or dispatch was to call just a private citizen,
Then,
not even someone under contract?
then if they contacted them, I think there's a liability there towards them, because they
Wow.
reached out to some
I was
individual.
gonna say.
It's just like a
me
first
too.
responder.
You know, and the more everybody goes out, that's the less chance that we are going to get an animal control
Well, I
officer.
tell everybody now, when I've got this dog, I say no, I call dispatch.
Yeah.
Because the more numbers that are logged through dispatch, maybe the more apt people will.
But I don't know
I don't
that, like, I just drove by a dog on 19th that we talked about. Just drove by just to see what it looked like, because I called dispatch a couple weeks ago. Dog's house. Did you?
Yeah,
Well, nothing has changed. You know, that's the whole problem. And it's like it's going on deaf ears.
That dog was an issue a few years back.
Yeah,
And I think Kim, right? and
She did.
That's when he got another kennel and hooked them together.
Right.
And had that very-
well, that's why I wasn't sure if even if it was the same person, because I didn't think there was a dog in there for a while.
Yeah, I think it's.
Was it the same dog?
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know that I've helped
no,
standing
Yeah.
here.
I'm glad you brought this,
But I just,
that's why we had this meeting for the public to come and voice, to give us some ideas. We don't have all the answers.
and we don't,
And right,
we just
but-
want to help.
like I said, I've looked, every county is in this situation.
I
The
volunteer.
The shelters are full. And what do? They get a call now, they don't have any room for a cat or a dog. The other day I was up there, somebody tried to bring in some kittens. I was informed today they tried to bring in some kittens. They're max. So now,
But is the
But-
counties overrun? Like, do they have a protocol on what to do, unlike
I
us?
don't know, maybe that's something you need to check with other counties to see how they handle their overflow. But here's my main concern. Those two ladies sitting in the back, that they get burned out and they said, the heck with it. I know they're good-hearted, they'll never do that.
Absolutely,
A point, especially last week, what they went through.
absolutely.
They're already burnt out. Look at their faces.
I would be.
Yeah,
no way.
And I said that even before there was a Molly and an Ann in a shelter.
We are better off having that shelter, by all means. So let's don't do something to jeopardize it. That's my concern.
And the more support,
Mhm.
the better from
And,
everyone.
you know, if you see, from working in rescue for 25 years, and I worked with horses, not dogs or cats, horses, you have to be very, very careful what you do. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself in a lawsuit. You'll find yourself shot. We have had shotguns put in our faces.
Same.
We've had, you name it, it's happened. There's a protocol we went through where we went to law enforcement. Law enforcement got a hold of the prosecutor. Prosecutors wrote warrants. We took the police and the warrant with us and empty trailers to go pick up horses.
It's like in this case though, Becky, they wouldn't write the warrant.
Yeah,
Even though the dogs lived in that condition and there were 3 runners that were not aggressive, but harassing the neighbors,
that's what.
that would not get, they refused to write it.
Who did?
I don't know. I've just only spoke with one officer.
Yeah, one officer tried to get it and it
They
was
wouldn't write the
refused. to be
Was this
written.
county or city?
County?
I think maybe we need to sit down with the prosecutor
Yeah.
and see what her thoughts are, because basically, anybody that's been in law enforcement knows it's up to the prosecutor. If the prosecutor's not willing to follow through, there's nothing that,
Yeah, and I
anybody
don't know
can
who it
do.
was.
So,
That was reiterated to me today during a conversation as well, because I wanted to make sure I knew all the information. And if you want, she had pictures, or
Yeah.
somebody, I don't know if it was,
Mhm.
I honestly don't know if it was the prosecutor.
Okay.
But they had pictures and it
I
was,
think that's somebody we have to reach out to and
And
get
I
on
know that
board.
I don't know her personally, the prosecutor, but I'm pretty sure she's a
She's an animal lover, I can tell you.
Yeah,
I
she
know
was
that.
like involved in the bake sale and stuff, so I don't understand.
We need
that.
to reach out with her to get her support
Yeah,
with what we do.
Her support and the deputies,
Right,
deputy prosecutor's
We're getting
support.
one.
exactly,
yes,
yeah, and communication,
right.
a lot of that.
a lot of communication. But anyway,
Okay.
Well, the first thing to start the communication is, if I ask, I'm looking at, I've said this, looked at this 1,000 times. Page 14, Article 3. All I have to do is look at that and give that to police officer and say, are you enforcing it? The problem is enforcement. We've got the ordinance, it had the ordinance and only section 2 was taken out, and the whole section 2 was taken out because of one thing that they kept the rest of it. But if all you have to do is just look at this page, and I can show an officer, okay, here it is, enforce this. So there's the education. We have to enforce all of the officers in counties and the cities to enforce what the ordinance says. Because this,
Jim, I'm going to disagree with that because it still falls back to the prosecutor. She does not have to enforce those ordinances.
she don't have to, but any civic, this is the ordinance, they have to follow the ordinance. It doesn't matter if it's a prosecutor. If you are any citizen in this county and you have this in front of you, you have a right in the civil case. And then you can say, okay, now embarrass the prosecutor. The prosecutor doesn't have to push the issue. Any person in the civil can go to a civil and follow this right here because it's an ordinance.
And that was my question also. I know that we have 4 different ordinances, however many it was. But if we go to the sheriff's department, why can't, and it's in the county, why don't they enforce this?
We
Because this
can't,
is a county, right?
Exactly.
we can't because Tell City has their own, Troy has their own.
And there's so much
Calhoun has their own.
difference.
But the sheriff can't go to Asa. That's so,
they might be able to go to Leopold, but they couldn't go to Cannleton, right? Is that what
no,
it is?
I'm saying, if they're out in the county, why do they not follow the county ordinances?
It's because they
The county,
decided
the
not
county
to.
officer in the county.
Well, the thing
These are the
is,
county.
that will
ordinances.
help then when we have this committee, when we have all the heads of the departments involved in this.
Correct. We've got to get all
I
the
think
cities
what
and the
we need
county
to
on the
do-
same page.
Is sit down with
Yeah, you go.
Lee and Alan and the Troy Marshal
And Derek.
and Derek.
Yeah, I'd like the
Have a meeting
prosecutor
with
in
him
there.
and the prosecutor there too. And let them know
I'm sure some of
This
them
is
are
a
watching this video
a
tonight.
serious
so,
situation.
Well, that's what we need.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
That it's
They
not,
already need to know what to do,
Well,
what to call. and-
Yeah.
also, it's just not coming from this board, it's coming from the citizens of the community. All right,
So
all right,
let me call Sam and try to set up something.
okay. All right,
Or if she could even maybe attend our next meeting would be awesome.
Be a plus.
And for that matter, maybe we can get the judge and maybe the department heads again, just to kind of get everybody here at one time.
the judge has to be very careful.
Yes.
No, she could attend and just
Well,
listen.
well, yeah, but there's a gray area there, her being involved in decisions
Oh,
because
yeah,
the case goes before her.
right, right,
And she's already been informed,
yeah.
it could jeopardize the case. So we have to be very careful of that.
We'll leave it
Okay,
at that.
what's the next thing?
Any other, I'm sorry, Adam.
Oh, anybody else have any other public comments you want to bring forward?
A few
Dixie.
years ago, and
Come
then
up
when
here.
it shut down, we used to have, it was called the spay and neuter
Oh.
truck.
Dixie, you need
And
to,
it was a lot.
Dixie, can you come up
here
front
to the booth?
Introduce yourself.
so the audience gets to see you?
Yeah, 'cause-
Hi, my name is Dixie Dickerson. This is more or less, I'm directing this toward Molly and Ann. It's a question, this was when the previous people were running the shelter. There used to be, and it was a lot of work, I understand. I think it was like once a month, and they maybe had this spay and neuter vehicle that came, and they would load it up with maybe 25 to 30 animals, cats and dogs. And I think they took them down to Evansville, and it was an overnight deal. and then you went and picked up your animal. And it was definitely at a discount price. Is that gone, null and void now? Or is that just something that the Evansville vets don't want to participate anymore?
Well, and I know that there are low-cost spay neuter clinics in other counties that are like ongoing, but you have to remember that we're a staff of 5. So
Right.
who's gonna load up the truck and drive it down there?
Yeah.
Who's gonna drive them back?
Well, I think this van or truck, they sent their own drivers. No, I'm
I don't
wrong on
know.
that?
Not, there's not anymore. That's.
Oh, that's gone.
I mean, Du Bois County, that's who we worked with on this. I asked them once if they would be willing to work with, and they do work with other shelters and stuff like that. But like they said, they have a staff of like 4,
Okay,
and there's a staff of, would you say 5? I mean, you know.
because this wasn't just for shelter animals. This was
Yeah.
Yeah,
community.
anybody. I
that
had
wanted-
one, I had
I
actually.
did,
Yeah,
I
it
used
would
to,
be, but
yes,
that's what she said. She said, we can't transport, we could give them a day or time, but we can't transport, and they can't. They don't have this, because to transport these dogs to be vetted, I left my house at 2 and 3 in the morning, and
Right.
drove here to Perry County.
right,
And we caught them,
Yeah.
and I had to be off that property, going out of town by 5:30
okay.
a.m.
And this would have been nothing like that. I mean, this was a setup time. You had your animal down there by that time. You picked your animal up by that time.
Well, and
Paid in
also,
advance.
there was so much time
And
in between the last
Mm-hmm.
shelter closing and this one opening that they don't have any knowledge of what was going on before versus what they're
Maybe
trying
I
to do
do
now.
that,
They're
yeah.
starting.
We're
They're basically
starting from
starting
scratch
fresh.
Right.
entirely. Neither one of us are even from Perry County originally.
Okay. So I guess my question, so does that even exist anymore though?
I'm not aware of it, Dixie.
Even
We
existing?
contacted one mobile vet, that told us that they don't do Perry County. And honestly, the only place that we can even find to take like weekly animals, which is something that we need for spay and neuter, is in Hardinsburg.
Okay,
So we do take animals in groups of 5 weekly to get spayed or neutered, and usually we save those spots for animals that have like adoption applications on file will be the ones to go.
so that's from the shelter. That surely wouldn't be anything in the community
And then
then.
you still have to go with really early.
Right, and then one of us is still driving in.
Because we have fixed animals in the community.
Yes,
Okay.
and we have done that, yeah, so
Because
that we
we
don't
don't
run
want-
into another situation like this house on 237. We have just quietly taken, owner and returned them back to their owner after we found out that they've already had litters and litters of puppies. So, yeah, I mean, with the vet shortage is crazy.
Huge. And so then my other question is, so is it behind time now to advocate for, I know there for a while we were saying, just get your cat, if it's feral or whatever, get it in a trap and get it spayed and neutered and just let it go again. That's not the
Now
answer.
the fixing,
Just
fixing
still
release.
disease.
Catch and
the disease
release.
even to
Yeah.
that. So that's not the answer.
There's one
Spay
house
and
in
neuter
Townsend on-
completely.
It just depends.
It's better than.
You have to look at you all are wanting blanket answers.
Yeah,
Right,
And you gotta stop.
exactly.
It's not a blanket answer. You have to look at every situation and evaluate every situation. Every situation's different.
That's right.
You can go to a house in Hamilton and there be 20 cats and they all look healthy. Okay, get them fixed. Because if you euthanize them 20 cats, you're gonna have 1,500 people coming after you.
Mhm.
Or you,
Because you're a
Correct.
shelter.
yeah.
Right,
after us, saying we're bad people.
exactly.
But if we roll up to a house and there's 20 cats and all of them look sick, what do? That you have to euthanize. You have to euthanize that situation because it's gonna cost too much to get that population of cats back up to health,
Mhm.
then spay and neuter. So because there's an overpopulation here, we have to look at every situation individually. We
Mhm.
can't have the blanket And I know that's what everybody, because that's easy, but we don't have an easy situation here. Have discovered on the 237 situation. I mean,
We're trying to fix something that has been
Thanks,
broken
Stacy.
for a long time, and it doesn't change overnight or in a month or in 6 months.
no,
This is going to take a process of getting this under
scratching the
control.
surface.
Because I know Molly knows, because she's heard too, out in the county. You guys have no idea.
I mean, I've quietly removed
It's
18
bad.
animals
bad.
off of
What do you mean?
from a trailer park off of 37 that probably nobody sitting in this room even knows that the trailer park exists.
Oh, I do. I know where it's at.
And out in,
But most people don't.
Yeah.
And I've removed 18 animals.
and out in the county, you had, last fall, I was in a video, and there's not as many dogs now. But at one time, I don't know if it was 2 properties or what, it was up to 60. Somebody counted 60 dogs.
And I will say this, people in the county take care of their problems differently than what we would in
Well, I
the
think the
city.
neighbors took care of this
Yeah.
one,
Exactly.
surely, because there's not as many.
That's almost best case scenario. Or they died from.
Another animal?
From infestation, they.
They get hit by cars.
Fireworks. So there are worse things than humane euthanasia, which I think is something that a lot of people don't really like to think about. And getting hit by a car because this dog cannot be caught, or
Exactly, correct.
the diseases that you can get just from living outside and eating roadkill every day.
Well, I'd rather see one get hit by a car and be killed instantly versus suffering.
Once again, that's the best case.
Right, versus suffering though,
Yeah, that's the best case scenario versus said person see it get hit, pick it up, take it to the vet, said vet, inject it, give it some pain meds,
Yeah.
and then it end up at guess what?
Shelter.
The
Shelter.
Yeah.
So then guess whose expense it becomes?
Or
It becomes the shelter's expense.
the example
It's a
of
stray
a
animal.
kitten being hit and no vet available, and someone has to hold the kitten till it dies in their arms.
Absolutely.
And that should never happen.
Yeah,
Well, it should
I'm
be
using-
her doing it,
right,
however
right.
it ever happens again.
It shouldn't be her doing it. I
That's
don't know who
that's
it should
exactly
be doing
right,
it, But it shouldn't be these two doing it.
because
all the
that's
time.
animal control.
but didn't law enforcement used to, keep them from suffering, like,
I'm gonna, he asked me, he offered. So he offered
all right,
and I declined. I said, no, we're not gonna do that. It's not going to be long.
yeah.
Katie?
And I wasn't gonna put that on him, sorry.
I just had a question. So the committee that you're talking about being formed, is that basically what they would be doing, is going case by case? to
Yeah, that's
see
what
which
my
animals
question
you-
Well, I think we want a blueprint and then present that to the public and get your suggestions on how we do it. Because, Jim, I'm gonna bring up history. When I was coroner, we had a mother and son. It was a murder-suicide in a trailer with a bunch of dogs, and the dogs were in there for a month with the deceased. At that time, the health department, the coroner's office, sheriff's department decided to put those dogs down that night. And there were a lot of bad comments made about that we made the decision. I'm standing here today and Warren's in the back and he has that position now. I don't want to speak for him, but if he had to make that decision, I would almost guarantee you he would make the same decision. Those dogs would be put down right then.
You have to.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a
For health
safety
reasons, if
factor
nothing else.
for the community. Okay.
Dogs eat human beings.
For
Right.
health reasons.
So there are times that law enforcement have to make the decision, it has to be done. Bottom line, and I would do it again if I was in that situation.
But
Yeah.
back then, I think, you didn't really have the
Social
everybody
media.
collaboration of,
Well, But what really irritated me about it, Tanya, was it went to Channel 14 News made a big to-do about it, but nothing was ever mentioned about 2 human lives.
Oh, my gosh,
It was the dogs that were put down that was the main focus.
right.
You
Well,
know,
anybody that disagrees with humanely euthanizing animals, needs to just spend a day or two at the shelter and look at the 8-foot kennels that they live in
Yeah.
for up to, I mean, we've only been open a year, and we've already had a dog that was there for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worse, it's almost worse than jail. They don't get, we can't put anything in there because they're so bored and stressed that they eat everything we put in there. I mean, beds, blankets, they are literally sleeping on concrete, surrounded by concrete, listening to barking, day in and day out. I don't think that, if you put a human in that situation, I think 10 out of 10 times they would say, they would pick euthanasia.
Well, and then I'm going to make this statement, and Warren's back there. Warren was the sheriff.
Warren, you've been everything.
No matter how big you build a jail or an animal shelter, it's always going to be full, no matter how big you have. So there's got to be some other alternative. And we need to look at that very cautiously and thoughtfulness.
And I would like to add to this also, which I agree with Molly. Every situation is different. You have to look at the whole picture. You may have someone that is a hoarder. And believe you me, hoarding is a disease. People hoard animals, they hoard. I can't watch that show on TV, Hoarders. It just makes me want to puke. But I mean, people are hoarders. It's a disease. And that's where we have to get people involved to get these people the help that they need so this situation doesn't happen again.
Well,
That's what I was
and,
saying in the beginning, because that's exactly the situation we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It isn't just an animal.
She's been doing this for
It's-
50 years.
well,
She has to keep moving out of her residences because she.
And we're doing everything
Can't
we
live
can
at
on
home.
our end to keep her from doing it again, but she's gonna do it again. And
Well-
I told these ladies when we start, you know she's gonna be doing this.
Well, most of the people that have, and it has happened in this county, in the recent years of hoarding situations, and the courts have said you cannot own any more animals. If you do, you go to the clinker. You know,
That's, yeah,
Who
that's
monitors
what we
that,
need. We need consequences.
Who monitors to make sure there are no?
that's correct.
Yeah.
This situation that I'm speaking of, which I'm not gonna mention any names, it was not monitored.
right, because he violated it.
Right.
Was it not monitored, or were there people turning a blind eye and putting blinders on?
I think that happened a lot.
I think it's a combination. I think
Probably a
it's a combination.
combination of both, but I
Disagree with.
was in on that situation and it was not precise.
May I ask a question out there to, I know the people here, how many of you out there have or copy or have read the animal control ordinance? Yeah, I know, Molly. I think that's right there is,
That would help a lot, yeah.
is starting to educate the people of what this says and what the responsibilities are and what the penalties are. And like I said, you talk about the prosecutor. Well, there's a lot more than prosecutor. You don't need a prosecutor to go to for a lawsuit. But if you get some individual that has a little bit amount of money that reads this and all at once realizes that somebody down the street has been violating this, then they can be courteous and go and say, look, there's an ordinance that says you're doing this wrong. And if those people don't listen, then you have the option. And there should be a fund to help pay for those people for that civil suit. Because
I
you
don't
can-
think that'll ever happen here, Jim.
I agree with you that it probably won't. But the first thing is, as you were talking about, educate the kids and educate the public. When they were, you know, I read this when I was in New York, on the New York Thruway. I read the whole thing when it came through in 2011. And it was really good. And then the state comes up with this county option dog tax and throws Section 2 completely out. So that's why we have all the problems, because there is no Section 2. If you pursue Section 2, it talks about licensing, it talks about permits, and it talks about that these people are breeding. And so you can actually control that but you have to use the authority you've got. And so we've got to, with going back, with Andrew Foster,
County attorney.
we've got to go back and have the people start following the rules you have. If you don't follow a rule, get rid of them. And that's what I'm doing actually at the state level right now. I'm trying to get rid of the county option dog tax through the state level. But I've been seeing it for, what, 27 years, 26
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we've heard enough from the public comments. We need to move on to our CAD reports. We're already running behind schedule.
Yeah.
So,
I know Tanya, they were sent to Tanya and she sent them out to everybody and I don't know if you had a
Yeah, I
chance
didn't
to
get
take a
chance to
look.
at 'em.
I noticed there was a couple, I saw one double in there, which that's expected.
It was chickens.
Okay,
Chickens.
We don't do chickens.
right.
No, unless they're grilled or fried.
All right. Since we're talking about CAD reports, the situation that occurred, the last couple of weeks with the Humane Society, the Health Department had an incident out in the county where an individual was bit. The person that was bitten, they didn't report it to the police department. They went to medical services. Well, medical services are, by law, they have to report it to the health department. So the health department got involved. Make a long story short, supposedly this dog had bitten several different people over the last few years. And they wanted us, the health department wanted us to make a decision on if this was a dangerous animal. So I did the follow-up with the CADs at the police department. Nobody reported it, any of these bites. So again, this is going back to education. We've got to educate people. If they get bit, they need to call and make a report because we can't make decisions just because of hearsay. We have to have it in writing. We get a doctor's report, okay? Apparently, there was another doctor's report of the same animal a year apart, but in the first situation, the individual kicked the dog and the dog retaliated.
And they didn't report it.
They didn't CAD it, they said went to the doctor.
Went to the
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
So we've got to educate the public to report it to the CADs and then also go to the doctor. So we have a trail, a paper trail that when it comes to this board, then we can make a decision. But I don't feel like we can make a decision because we're hearing hearsay.
Right. You can't go on hearsay. You have to
So,
have documented reports.
That's got to be something that we've got to get to the public about that.
Yeah, one thing about, like, call a dispatch about animals, I mean, people think that that's not who they should, because we see that every day on Facebook.
Right.
You need to call and report it. Well, what are they gonna, well, nothing.
We need a
Probably
paper trail.
They
Yes.
paper trail. Yeah, if
And
we get enough calls,
and that-
then maybe change.
Because every year we
Over
get
500.
a report from the Tennessee Police Department and dispatch, how many animal complaints or calls they had for the whole year. And they break it down to the county, Cannleton, Troy, and Tell City. We get those numbers.
When you call dispatch to complain about an animal or something, do you have to leave your name?
No,
Not always.
Okay.
Yeah.
no, you just say
Maybe that's
concerns.
something
Yeah.
You don't have to say words, right?
Right,
No.
and that,
But-
but really, let the public know.
Right,
this
and
is the stuff
Katie, that's
you
why I'm
need to
glad
know.
you're
Yeah.
here, that you're hearing this.
You're
and
not.
we hope that you can
Yeah.
put something that we're trying to educate people. For us to be able to do our job correctly, we need help from the public reporting these things. Because we may have a dog out there that's bit 20 people, but unless they call them in, we have no idea.
Well, it's like when people reach out to us on Facebook, everybody go, oh, there's a dog.
Yeah.
You know what I do? I pick up the phone and call dispatch every single time.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell them.
Not really your responsibility.
No,
They are the ones.
well, that's what I tell them
Right.
too.
What, Cindy?
And that,
You say a lot of people are not calling in for a cat, right? So if a person has been bitten,
Mhm.
they go to a physician,
Mhm.
does a physician turn it in?
to the health
Health
department,
department.
they have to by law report it to the health department.
And then what does the health department do?
Writes
Then
up
they'll write a
Yeah.
report and they'll go out and check on the animal to see,
Okay,
if it needs to be quarantined or not. They have a procedure.
Responsible for-
And we're gonna get into that in a little bit also.
But it is not their responsibility, the sanitarian or anyone, to call law enforcement.
Right. So.
I guarantee you, a
and-
dog bites me, I'm gonna call the law, I'm gonna call my brother, I'm gonna call everybody.
And that's what we do each month. We get the CAD reports and we get the bite reports trying to compare them. And a lot of times, we don't have anything on a CAD report of a dog bite. We have a dog bite.
It's hearsay.
I want to add one thing to that. There's also the HIPAA laws. You can't, as you know, the HIPAA laws, you can't just, if a person is getting bitten, we can't just go try to get information about that. They have to sign off. They have a form, state form, that releases information so that you can get information, and we can't get that. That's the hardest thing. I've been to the child services, I've been to the health department, and it's really tough because the HIPAA laws are so strong. You just can't walk in and say, hey, somebody got bit, tell me, to like at the hospital, they can't give you that information. So you have to go to find out who the person is by, how are you going to do it if they can't give you information? And then find out who the person is and go to them personally and say, hey, can you help us out here? We need this help. So they can sign this release. And there's release forms. I have the release forms. I have the state forms. I can go back and find all
Which
that.
goes back to why it's important to call the police.
Police.
Because a CAD
Correct.
report is public.
CAD report is public
Yes.
knowledge. But we do get
We get
reports from the
bite
health
reports.
department on the bites
Mhm.
each month.
Yes.
So,
All right, so since we're talking about bites, we need to move on to the bite reports themselves now.
and what happened was I contacted Kim this morning, and I don't know if she was busy. The only one we got was the one that we've been dealing with,
Yeah.
as I previously spoke about.
Must have been,
Yeah, it's a.
the
And
dog actually supposed to go to obedience.
And Kim confirmed that she talked to the school and they were registered. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
if they ended up going.
But what bothers me about a situation like that, those dogs are trained to their owner. If that dog gets loose, or is their owner, is it
Well,
going,
And
to
who
get?
follows up? Who follows up to see how the dog is afterwards, Jim?
Well,
Go ahead.
You mentioned the name, Kim. What's Kim's last name and position?
Kim Robertson, she's the sanitarian with the health department. And now she has a new assistant that helps her. Basically, he's working on the dog bites. And he was the one that actually sent Adam, I think, the first email because it was new to him. He didn't know how to go about this.
Yeah, and they are Indiana animal bite reports.
Right.
It's not just Perry County. They have to
Yeah,
be reported. And it gives a specific breakdown of what happened, handwritten, all parties involved.
And in this case,
And pictures.
apparently, it went to Facebook and there were quite a few conversations back and forth by the mother of the child that was bitten and the owner of the dog. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, season 2.
Yeah.
So, but as far as I'm aware of, we don't have any other
Yeah. I
animal
say,
bites other than the one that,
just that one,
I
that's
don't
all we
think
know of.
that in that situation in particular, which again goes back to taking everything case by case, I don't think they have a containment issue with that dog.
right,
That dog has bit people, but it was on their
their
property.
property. Exactly.
So really then what's the issue? I mean, I'm not trying to be smart.
Well, I think the mother said, it's,
Some
again,
company-
hearsay. One says that the child was invited on the property, one says it wasn't.
Oh,
Here you go.
right.
And it's basically, I guess, a neighborhood dispute,
Oh,
okay? Because even the other victim lives in the neighborhood from a year ago,
It's a housing subdivision.
yes.
So that goes back to where it's important for you to educate the youth
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Because I know that I have 4 dogs on my property. 3 of them will probably lick you to death, but I have 1 dog that if you're not part of that family and she does not know you, I don't know what she's gonna do.
Mhm.
So we keep her contained. We make sure she doesn't get off property, but if somebody comes onto our property, then all of a sudden the risk is on them and we can tell them, hey, she's not very friendly.
Right,
And then
stay
we
away.
have to put her up.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing. I have 3 pit bulls that'll lick you to death, and a schnauzer that'll eat your face off.
Ours is
That
a
one was
dachshund.
cool.
We've got a dachshund that very protective of the family.
Great loving dog, but for strangers,
When you were talking about educating the children too, that was another thing. Sorry, my marketing mind was rolling. We all remember stop, drop, and roll, right?
Right.
All the things. So if you can educate the children to come up with some kind of something about,
not approaching an animal they don't know.
or just the reporting process.
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping there are videos out there that we can get to show them too, because a lot of times if they see it, you know, it would be great if we could do our own videos from the animal shelter saying, hey, this is our kitten. Look at it, you know.
I'm pretty good at getting bit. Maybe I
3.
can volunteer. to-
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
We call her Tasty
But-
Tanya.
It's really, it's great that, you know, that we decided to give them things to take home, but let's show them
On the
something.
refrigerator.
Show them something that's installed in their brains
Yeah.
also. That's very
We're a little
important.
late on the draw this year, but we're planning on next year really
School.
getting into the
Well,
schools.
honestly, when I watched these and I first got kids, but it makes sense because we all know stuff. Now, would we do stop, drop, and roll? I don't know, but we all know it.
No, we'll drive our parents crazy.
Bill of Rights, I think on Saturday morning.
Just say no.
Yeah.
Well, I just have, like, I have 5 children and one of my children, he is one of those that we constantly have to tell him, you can't run up and just touch an animal. He has to be reminded all the time because he's just like, ooh, dog, cat, they're fluffy. I want to love on them.
Yeah.
But he's still only 6 years old.
Mhm.
So he's still learning.
Right.
But children, when they see an animal, their instinct's not danger.
No,
Their instinct is
Loving.
right.
Right, exactly.
All right, Charlie, you got some questions?
Okay. Over the last month, some things have just popped in my head and just like to discuss them. Talking about the chance of this board having a Facebook site. And basically what the Facebook site would be used for is to post the meetings and the agendas. Again, to educate the public what's going on with the board and inform the public about where they can go for animal food and financial aid. Because I noticed in the last few weeks on Facebook, people have posted, I need dog food, I need cat food, I need help. And I brought this up to Molly a while back about animals that are surrendered. And I asked the question, I said, is this a financial problem or just a problem? Sometimes it's a financial problem. We have the assets to help them with the financial, okay? Between the Humane Society, the food pantries have dog food and cat, I think cat food too.
Yeah, they-
But we need to promote that, and that would be one of the sites that we would use. Once we get into the education with the kids, the information that we give to the kids could be posted on this Facebook account. It could be for people in the public to contact us instead of coming to a meeting. Well,
My phone
if there's
was
a,
enough.
Oh, so you don't want to.
Yeah, don't put our phone numbers
Don't,
on.
don't get a message.
no, but we could advertise, you know, if you have a problem here,
Yeah,
but-
put the comments on.
trying to, again, educate the public, what this board's about. Once we get the new ordinance, be a perfect place to put it on there, that people can go to and see it.
Even just the meetings, like, I said something and somebody had created a little meme, and then I shared it, like you did, you posted, or
You got a few
somebody
people
did
here.
it,
I
and
don't
we
do
shared
that
it,
Facebook
and,
crap.
yeah.
But I just think that
That's
this
true.
board needs to be more public with the public, because
Absolutely.
what does this board do? Most people have no idea.
I
No,
didn't
it's
even
good.
know when y'all met till Tanya reached out to me.
Yeah, right, until Tony,
Yep,
I
same.
really knew it wasn't.
I'm wild and obnoxious.
Yes, you are.
So I guess my question to the board, is it okay? And I would be willing to set this Facebook site up.
You can do that.
I've done it before.
Yeah, you got my permission.
Okay, and I will take care of it, okay?
Yeah.
I passed the secretary's job over on Becky, so
I
now
like
I'll
a good
take
picture of myself though, if you're gonna put me as a member.
So Charlie, let me just,
Yes.
created a lot of pages,
Mhm.
choose a page or a group. You need to make the other people on the board admins.
Yes,
or-
Yeah,
exactly,
there you go.
Because
yes,
if you say one day, I'm not doing this
Right.
anymore, then you can
Right.
transfer
Yeah.
that to somebody
exactly,
else.
yes.
Oh my gosh,
Just-
it is, because we're dealing with that in American Legion where the person who ran the page passed away.
Yep,
and now
I
nobody can
wondered
get in.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Well, we had the same problem with CVB. Somebody was the administrator, they left, and you can't get into
Yeah.
that account. They're just starting all over again. So, yes, I will make sure that the whole board's
Just from
administrated.
experience.
Okay. So that was just one of my questions. The other one is, again, and I mentioned this earlier.
So
And-
before we address, can we go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and
Okay,
let you be the administrator, or domain administrator and get it set up?
Make a Facebook page.
A
Okay.
Facebook page
Please
for
do
our
so.
group.
I'll make the motion. I'll
Jim
make the-
first, Tanya second, all in favor, say aye.
And what's it gonna be called?
it will probably be Perry County Animal Welfare Board.
Exactly what, yep.
It's,
I'll probably abbreviate,
There we are.
abbreviate it.
No phone number.
No phone
number.
number. I can put my phone number if they want.
Put your phone number.
And then I will send you
I'm too busy
messages.
getting trees out the road.
Okay, again,
Too busy keeping internet.
I brought this up earlier. This is my other problem, and this is in regarding to the shelter. If they're dispatched by request of a law enforcement agency or by one of them, and one of them gets injured, who's responsible for their doctor bills? They are not animal control, but they are being called out by dispatch, and I think there's a liability there, and I think that's something we need to talk to the county attorney about.
They very
Because-
well should be covered. I mean,
Well,
What
Like-
does your contract say?
No.
they're not,
Contract.
because the contract says they are not animal control.
Contract.
But when you do the functions of an animal control officer,
Calls them and they willingly do it. How is that?
that's my,
As long as
It's
it
just
doesn't
your
change the
problem.
expectation that we then have to.
right,
Like, if, you know, if the situation is, we do it most of the time, then we grumble about it, but in the end, we just care. But I don't wanna get called and with the expectation that I'm going to go out every single time.
no, because you're full. What, in this
And
situation,
not even just like, we're full, even if there are no animals at the shelter, if I'm not, like, I have 2 young children.
right, you have a life
Yeah.
Right.
besides the
Yeah,
shelter.
and I work, and I have a full-time job,
Right.
so, like, there will be times when we say no.
Have you?
No,
Well, yeah, so, well, yeah. I mean,
but there needs to be more of that,
Yeah.
okay?
Because when it starts to become a problem, then we'll have to have a solution. But right now, you guys are the solution.
Well, and then, you know, they have to close, that if they get a call, they have to close their business
Business
and
to go.
take care of something, that's not fair. I know,
And especially if it's a hurt animal and you have to take them to the vet. You have to, during the day, you have to shut down the shelter. And that's the one thing, as I said over and over, our main goal is keep that shelter open and find whatever we have to do.
And improve
To
the
fix the other
ability for them to get funds.
Yeah.
Because
And
these funds that all at once you gotta find is not it's not in your budget. All at once you got $400, $500, or somebody said, hey, who's gonna pay for this? As they said before last week. All at once, the shelter has to burden this,
Yeah.
and it's not set up in your budget. That's why I think we ought to look, because June is budget time. Everybody knows that. In June, all of the offices have to send their budget, including
Not June.
June they start, yes, the budget starts.
Yeah, the papers handed out in
Yeah.
June, they have to be in by the first of
Yes,
July.
that's what I'm saying. That's
So
the
the
beginning.
auditor's office can,
So we have to ask for ours too, because we didn't do that last year. It was kind of an issue.
Well, all I'm saying is in June is whenever they
Right.
start asking for, to really
Okay.
get.
this leads to another thing, Jim, that I wanted to bring up, and again, it's the shelter. Had a situation where the health department wanted an animal quarantined. It was a cat. And it was a mama cat that was pregnant and had a bad time at the shelter about trying to deliver and had to go to the vet. And there were 10 kittens that either on their own or had to be put down because they weren't healthy. And then the mother had to be taken care of. And it was a large bill out of their budget. And their budget is onion paper thin. Can we put it that way? So this is a big hit. Of course, we have good-hearted people in the community that donated money to help out. But there should be a situation where they were called upon to do something for the county that the county needs to be responsible. Again,
Why was the cat quarantined?
It bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, like, it wouldn't have been feasible just to put it down when you took it to the vet? So it couldn't have been because it was quarantined?
Well, so it was quarantined for 10 days. During those 10 days, it was fine.
Okay.
It was not just fine, but friendly.
Yeah.
Like totally viable as an adoptable
I got it.
cat. Now, she was very pregnant by the time the 10 days were up. And it was one of those situations where we were like, oh, we can take her to the vet, like, this coming Wednesday, but she could be in like active labor by then. It was it. And so if that would have happened, we would have had to pay for euthanizing the kittens anyways.
Right.
Vets would have, if they're breathing and stuff on
Yeah.
their own,
Yeah, I got you.
just let them suffocate. So it would have been a large bill either way. So, I mean, we obviously didn't expect her to have labor complications, but she did. And so, and I took her to the vet and I said, if we don't do this, we don't get them out, are they gonna die? Is mom gonna die? And he said, oh yeah, they would have all died. So, I mean, we saved the mom.
Well, you had to do it. I mean, I understand now. I just didn't I didn't know the whole
And
situation.
if we can, here's the thing, if we take one in and we can spay abort, if we know that cat is pregnant and we can get it in and get the cat spayed, I know it may not
You let the
be,
kittens go.
but come on, we have enough kittens running
Yeah.
around. We don't need any more.
Right. That's costly.
If we can stay aboard, then that's what we're gonna do. But in this situation, we had quarantine, we kind of,
Yeah,
we
you,
just lost that window.
Right.
And it happened and this is what we had to decide.
it was just messy timing.
I mean, no, we had to decide. It
Yeah.
was, do we let her suffer
Right.
and die? Because, and that's what I told Ann. I was like, you need to get her to the vet or she's gonna die. Do we let her die? Because it's gonna cost us money. We know that. Or do we get her to the vet, do the right thing, and worry about it afterwards?
We don't let her suffer, that's for sure.
So that's what we did.
You made a good decision.
Well,
and I back you 100% on your decision, but I think
Is
in
that
the-
gonna be our normal decision?
Every situation.
every situation is gonna be,
Yep.
but there also should be some backup where in this situation, you were asked to do something for the county. So the county should
Yeah.
assume some responsibility for those bills.
Just a stray cat? Yeah. The cat, it's a stray cat that hung out at a nursing facility in Tell City. And became friendly with some of the residents and some of the workers. And because it's pregnant, that's what happens with these cats. And that's part of the education too. because it was pregnant, somebody either touched its belly wrong or whatever, and the cat bit. I mean, it happens to us. And it's all because the cat was pregnant. This cat is not mean, aggressive. I mean, we got one now, and you just looked at it and it wants to eat your face off. This cat wasn't that, so.
But I mean, going back to that, it's someone else needs to be responsible. They shouldn't be responsible.
Right,
They shouldn't
because,
even be responsible to have to quarantine it. I mean,
well, and that was the other thing, because, and I'm not putting the blame on anybody, but in the past, this board, members of this board would take an animal that was quarantined, take it to the shelter, and they would take care of it. But in the contract, it doesn't say anything like that. They're an independent contractor. So there needs to be some sort of adjustment
Yeah.
about when they take on, you know,
Yeah,
an
there should
animal.
be
And
an agreement between the
we
county.
talked that
financially
we're gonna look into that, about a fee. And, you know, and who's going to, you know, pay that fee. These are questions what we have to ask, but we have to try to find the answers.
All right.
That, I mean, I'm sure there was.
Next thing, we've got questions considering dog bites from the same dog.
We done been over that.
Yeah,
That's for
that, in that
question there.
situation, again, we need the paperwork.
Yeah.
Basically, the CAD,
All right.
and then the bite report.
And now, okay, ordering of the school promotional items, so we talked about for the educational services.
Oh, I got the
You have the inventory?
inventory. I wasn't counting the individual pieces, I'm sorry.
No,
We had
you
a
got
box of stickers. We had 2 boxes of bookmarks, which I'm talking boxes, there's a bunch. Then we had 4.5 rolls, and I'm talking rolls of these window stickers. Okay, and we have 6 boxes of these trifolds. Boxes, or 3 boxes of these bags, and they're roughly probably 100 in each. So not near what I thought we had of the bags. And half pint food bowls for whatever reason,
They were travel bowls.
stainless steel.
Yeah, they're
Half
travel.
pint.
How many are there?
Of the bowls, probably 100 in the one box that I mean, yeah, they're really,
Whatever we get, we're going to need at least 1,200.
Right, those were the
So-
numbers that I got.
if we get more of these bags, then you're gonna have to, 900 more.
Yeah.
And more of these were purchased at or anything, I don't know. You
We
have any
can get
idea?
those made here in town.
Were they?
Now, I don't know if they were, but we
Yeah.
can get them made here in town. And I'd like to see
Yeah,
all 3
right.
organizations' names on it.
Yeah,
Well, then we'll just have to order all new ones. I mean, we can still give out the other
Yeah.
ones for whatever.
Did we want to go with the little Etch-a-Sketch deal,
I think so.
or do we want to go with the water bottles?
I think the Etch a Sketch. I
Yeah.
think that's something unique,
Yeah, that they,
and the kids will remember
Yeah.
that. You know, there's all kinds of organizations that give out water bottles.
right. Anyway,
And we can always put stickers
yeah,
Right,
on that.
on them.
kind of cute.
So are
And-
you
and these
are you
things-
gonna go into the
No, I mean, we
schools?
can put
Yes.
stickers on them with
Yeah.
all 3 organizations'
System
names.
for marketing, or we're gonna get called from dispatch.
Well, we're talking,
Yeah.
we're working the 4-H fair,
Good job.
Schweitzer Fest,
Awesome.
and trying to have some, make sure there's a CAD.
Yeah. Tell them no.
And for any of you, I don't know, these stickers here, what they basically they were first responder stickers.
Yeah,
That way, if there was a fire in your home or something would happen, somebody would see this on your window and know that, hey, there's
and also I have
2 dogs
some,
and
when
1
we,
cat or
when we done this
vice
at
versa.
Christmas, I have a few boxes of stuff at my house. And I couldn't find one at the shelter, so that might be the only ones at my house. They were like wallet cards. That, like if you were in a wreck or something, it says, I have 2 dogs at home at this address.
Yeah, I think we might get.
Have you seen the stickers, no,
This goes on your house.
on the house that says animals?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what that is.
Yeah, my daughter's got
That's,
one that's,
that's like the top.
yeah, we got 4 rows of them. We got a
Okay.
bunch.
Just,
So-
this is just out of curiosity, because you guys talk about the stickers, but in Hancock County, we are required by, like, have
happen to-
large,
What's gonna happen to these?
then we have to have a
right
sticker
now?
on our mailbox that shows that we have dogs for the mail carriers.
Mhm.
Like, it's required.
Yeah,
So we have a paw,
really,
Yeah.
Abandoned.
it's required.
So now.
That's a pretty good, idea. You could get that when your license and permits.
They have things like that you can get because the firefighters also, for volunteer firefighters.
I don't know, I think our postal service, they took it upon themselves, to do it. They went and marked every mailbox.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
good.
this is perfect example, right?
Here we go. All right, Molly, tell us.
This is the the third call. Zach, Payline, Coline, whatever.
Bear,
Yeah.
bear.
Is this the one that bit John Allen in the
Last
hand?
week To get stuff on Moo, has now abandoned that dog, and Tell City Police is over there wanting me to come and get it.
This is the dog that bit John
And they
Allen,
knew
correct?
that dog has been there. That dog has been abandoned for months there.
Bear.
And they knew that. But now tonight, it's a problem and I need to go.
Why
get
is it the problem? Why is it a problem
It's
tonight?
not your problem.
And let's back up a little bit. We were there months ago and we removed 10 dogs from that property because it was a hoarding situation.
Yes,
And there was a bite,
And that girl called
They
me
hit these
everything but a white girl.
yeah.
and there was a bite there
And now
of a police
I'm
officer.
being called again to come get a dog out of the backyard that's been there for months.
No.
And they have not lived in that residence for months.
No,
They hid these dogs from them, 3 of them.
So is anyone
So now
Been
I'm.
feeding it or watering it?
This residence right now. Yeah,
Someone's
they
been,
were, I was
The
checking.
son.
Because again, like we said, the dog had shelter. The dog was being
Yeah.
fed, it had water. It was in a better situation than me bringing it into the shelter.
so why do you have to take it now?
Because evidently the owner of the property wants the dog gone.
That was a rental? Was it a rental?
But this is not, see right there, like.
no.
But do you have,
This is what I deal with
right,
on a daily.
do you have room for another
No,
dog?
I don't.
Then
So
you
I'm
tell,
going to have to, finagle.
And this is an
Because this is
eight-year-old
law
dog.
enforcement, and now we have an abandonment situation.
Well,
That no one will
right.
be in
We're
trouble.
going to press charges on the abandonment situation. That is a law that is being
Yes.
broken.
But they've already gotten away with hoarding, they've already gotten away with it.
I mean, how many laws are gonna be broken before someone does something about this?
I'm glad this is being recorded,
Yeah.
Molly.
Love you, Molly.
I don't
It's,
really think she should go.
no, but what's the answer? What's the person
Let,
gonna
let
do?
the police department figure out.
Yeah.
I'm
Let
sorry,
them take it out.
but like we've said over and over, they are not animal control. They do not have room.
No, and nor the,
I'll do it 7:20 PM, like the week.
Shit.
Right.
I was at the shelter for 8 hours.
yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Say,
Are we
Okay.
close?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
yes.
she's gonna go get the van.
We got-
All right.
She's gonna go get the van.
Okay.
Can I make a motion? First of all, can I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at
Yes,
7:20 PM?
yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All approved? All right.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Stream will end now.
Now we can talk.